This is the second part of the anime. Kanon and Nikaido were under the impression that Kasukabe was roughly the same age as Vox, but they were about to learn otherwise. Kasukabe disclosed that he had been transformed into a child by a magician during magical experiments several years back. Despite his youthful appearance, he was actually 60 years old. Kasukabe also mentioned that he had been cleaning the house of magical residue when they arrived, and after a thorough cleaning, the house returned to its original layout. Kasukabe then led Kanon and Nikaido to a room where he unveiled the result of his experiment, a door made from the remains of deceased witches. This door, he explained, allowed them to access the sorcerer's world, just like how witches use doors to enter the hole. The next day, Kanon and Nikaido readied themselves for a trip to the sorcerer's world in search of the witch responsible for Kamon's lizard-headed transformation. Knowing they were heading into enemy territory, Kanon armed himself with all his knives while concealing his distinctive lizard head, a telltale sign of witchcraft victims. Kasukabe provided them with a guidebook he had authored for navigating the sorcerer's world. Nikaido explained her reason for accompanying Kanon, to witness his human face again. Shortly thereafter, they passed through the door and found themselves in the sorcerer's world. Kanon was brimming with excitement, as he had intentions to confront and defeat all the witch there. Understanding Kamon's strong desire to locate the witch who cursed him, Nikaido cautioned him that they needed to eliminate the witches discreetly. She emphasized that Kanon must not reveal his true identity in any situation. As they were getting ready to head to the city center to gather information, a magician approached them and kindly offered them a ride on a magic carpet. Meanwhile, in an alley, Fujita and Ebisu found themselves confronted by two intimidating magicians. Fujita felt threatened, especially since his previous partner had been killed by someone from the hole. One of the magicians, Yoshioka, attacked Fujita, while the other made fun of Ebisu due to her small stature. Fujita, determined to protect Ebisu, didn't hesitate to fight back and urge her to flee. Just then, Noi arrived and quickly dismembered Yoshioka's body. Shin also appeared, sneaking up on Yoshioka's partner and ripped his heart out of his body. Shin had a strong aversion to bullies who targeted weaker individuals and believed that those with strength should defend those in need. Ebisu was visibly shocked by the ruthless killings of the two witches by Shin and Noi, but it appeared that such brutal acts were routine for them. Fujita was quick to express his gratitude to Shin and Noi for saving them, and Noi even tried to uplift his spirits by treating him to some ice cream. However, Fujita couldn't shake off his frustration at his perceived weakness in not being able to protect Ebisu. Feeling desperate to become stronger, Fujita implored Shin and Noi to train him. But the two powerful magicians didn't seem too keen on the idea, deeming it troublesome and a waste of their time. On a different note, Kanon and Nikaido opted for a magic carpet taxi, but soon realized they didn't have the money to pay for the ride. Nikaido suggested jumping off the carpet, but Kanon came up with a clever plan. He removed his mask and used his unique ability to extract information from the taxi driver, only to discover that the man wasn't the magician they were after. In a swift, albeit violent, move, Kanon killed the driver, causing the magic carpet to lose balance, and they crashed onto a building's rubble. Luckily, they survived the fall and managed to obtain the house keys and some money from the deceased driver. Following this ordeal, Kanon and Nikaido decided to grab dinner at a restaurant before continuing their quest. While Kanon waited for their food, Nikaido approached the bar to seek directions. As she was about to return to their table, a mysterious demon approached her and discreetly handed her an anonymous card. On the flip side, Kanon started off enthusiastic about trying the snacks and cocktails served by the waiter. However, his excitement quickly turned into nausea, prompting a hasty dash to the restroom. But as he entered the restroom, a sudden dizziness overwhelmed him, causing him to lose consciousness. Meanwhile, with the assistance of Kikurage, En successfully revived the severed head, although it would take some time for the consciousness to fully return. The head, which now identified itself as Risu, seemed like it was piecing together scattered memories, mistaking it for a dream. Eventually, Risu opened his eyes and introduced himself to En. Around the same time, Kanon regained consciousness after a brief fainting spell, during which he glimpsed a fragment of a lost memory involving someone named Risu. Upon exiting the restroom, Nikaido filled him in on a man with eye-cross tattoos living in his mouth, similar to Kanon himself. They decided to discreetly tail this man but lost track of him when he entered a building. Meanwhile, Shin and his group arrived at the location to apprehend the leader of a criminal gang known as the Cross Eyes. Following orders from En, they extracted information about the hideout of one of the Cross Eyes gang members, and En tasked them with capturing the leader and eliminating the gang. However, Shin was hesitant to kill the gang members, considering them weak magicians, so he posed as a prospective buyer of black powder attempting to do business with the gang's leader. It turned out the Cross Eyes gang was already aware of Shin and his associates working for En. and they promptly threatened them at gunpoint. One of the gang members even fired a shot at Shin, but Noi valiantly shielded him and lost her head in the process. Upon witnessing this, Shin was suddenly consumed by fury. He unleashed a powerful magical attack that shattered the incoming bullet into tiny fragments. Realizing that firearms wouldn't work against Shin, one of the gang members attempted a knife attack, but Shin swiftly incapacitated him with his hammer. During the scuffle, the gang member mentioned that their boss was deceased. Meanwhile, Noi made a surprisingly swift recovery and took care of the remaining gang members. Since they didn't acquire any information about the boss, Shin and Noi decided to abduct one of the gang members and deliver him to En. After Shin and the others departed from the scene, Nikaido and Kamen arrived, discovering the Cross Eyes gang members brutally slain. Kamen wondered who was responsible for this massacre, while Nikaido found herself intrigued by individuals with eye-cross tattoos, considering that Kamen bore the exact same tattoo. Unintentionally, Kamen muttered the name Risu and shared with Nikaido that he had recollected a fragment of a lost memory involving someone named Risu. Kamen was excited because he had a lead and explained to Nikaido that they needed to locate a man named Risu who might possess information about his origins. The next day, Nikaido proposed that they split up to search for Risu. In the meantime, En's subordinates attached Risu's head to a magical mechanical body. Shortly after, Risu revealed that he recognized En and pleaded for his life, but during the interrogation, he couldn't provide the needed information and died suddenly. Risu didn't know the identity of the Cross Eyes gang's boss because he had only recently joined and was unaware of the significance of apartment number 8, where they had found his head. Furthermore, Risu claimed not to know Kamen, although Shin was convinced that the man residing in Kamen's mouth was indeed Risu. Meanwhile, Nikaido headed to a magic pawn shop to sell her magic smoke and make some money. Before quoting a price for her magic smoke, the shop owner conducted an analysis and was pleasantly surprised to discover that Nikaido's magic smoke was an exceptionally rare, pure form of magic. Without hesitation, he handed over all his money to Nikaido in exchange for a small vial of her magic smoke. Nikaido counted the money, but then unexpectedly launched an attack on the owner to reclaim her magic smoke. Afterward, she dissipated her magic smoke to erase any traces of her unique and valuable magic power. Unfortunately, she also killed the owner in the process, unaware that the murder had been captured by a CCTV camera. With the money in hand, Nikaido went to a location where she could use the funds as payment to meet a demon named Asu. Thanks to the money, Nikaido secured a 30-minute conversation with Asu. They seemed familiar with each other, and Nikaido felt at ease in Asu's presence. She discussed Kamen and their mission in the sorcerer's world with Asu. However, Asu claimed not to know the person responsible for Kamen's transformation. Nevertheless, Asu was knowledgeable about Risu and informed Nikaido that Risu was currently with En. Nikaido inquired about individuals with eye-cross tattoos, and Asu revealed they were members of the Cross Eyes Gang, a criminal organization and enemies of En and his associates. Asu then questioned Nikaido's motives for helping Kamen and wondered if she had romantic feelings for him. Nikaido promptly denied this and emphasized that Kamen was an important friend to her. Upon hearing this, Asu offered to show her the way to En's residence. Meanwhile, En, frustrated with Risu's uselessness, ordered Fujita to bring a mutilated Cross Eyes gang member named Miyamoto to Risu. Rather than fearing a similar fate as Miyamoto, Risu mocked him for his pitiful condition caused by Shin's magic power. At the same time, one of En's men rushed to inform him that an intruder had infiltrated his residence in search of Risu. Upon hearing this news, Noi took it upon herself to deal with the intruder, showing great enthusiasm because the intruder had dared to enter En's place. Meanwhile, Nikaido appeared to be interrogating one of En's subordinates about Risu's whereabouts when Noi suddenly appeared and launched an attack. Nikaido skillfully evaded the assault and swiftly realized that Noi was the same person who had attacked her in the hole. A fierce battle ensued between Nikaido and Noi at En's residence, leaving Kamen back at home wondering if Nikaido had gotten lost. Recognizing Noi as a formidable fighter, even without using magic, Nikaido decided to distract her by injuring her eye in order to make her escape. On the other side, En and Shin inspected the door Nikaido had used to infiltrate the residence, and they were astonished to discover it was the Devil's Door. Having successfully eluded Noi, Nikaido made her way down a corridor and eventually found Risu locked in a room in the adjacent building. Rather than taking a safer route to the next building, Nikaido boldly leaped through a window. She managed to enter the room where Risu was confined and immediately reached for his wrist to rescue him. However, En arrived in the room simultaneously and grabbed Risu's other wrist to thwart Nikaido's efforts. Realizing that she would likely be defeated if she engaged in a direct confrontation, Nikaido swiftly struck En's face and chose to flee before he could use his magic to harm her. En in turn was consumed by anger because Nikaido had injured his face. His rage triggered a violent outburst, unleashing massive black smoke. Alongside En's intense fury, enormous mushroom plants began to sprout in the area, and those exposed to the black smoke began a slow transformation into mushrooms, except for Risu. Shortly thereafter, Noi arrived at the scene and discovered that Shin and the others had become ensnared in the mushroom plants, beginning their transformation into mushrooms. Witnessing this, Noi acted swiftly, striking En to render him unconscious and halt his destructive rampage. She then rushed to save Shin, who had already started turning into a mushroom, by administering her magic smoke into his mouth. Meanwhile, Nikaido managed to escape from En's residence, but she seemingly did not survive En's assault as a giant mushroom erupted from her back. Upon returning home, Nikaido urged Kamen to cut the mushroom before she completed her transformation. However, Kamen decided to rush Nikaido to the hole because the mushroom began to bleed when he attempted to cut it. Fortunately, Kamen got Nikaido to the hospital in time, where Vox and Kasakabe performed a life-saving operation on her. Kamen credited Kasakabe's spray, which could create a door connecting the sorcerer's world with the hole, for their timely rescue. While awaiting Nikaido's recovery, Vox and Kasakabe shared with Kamen the story of Shin, who once lived in the hole. Vox explained that Shin's father was a human while his mother was a witch. Tragically, Shin's mother was killed by the local association shortly after giving birth, and Shin's father concealed his mixed parentage to protect him from the hostile hole residents who vehemently opposed witches. In those times, the people of the hole were hostile toward witches, often resorting to violence against them even when the witches posed no threat, just as in the case of Shin's mother. Shin led a quiet life with his father until he reached his teenage years and began helping his father, who worked as a joiner. During his work, Shin accidentally cut his finger, revealing black particles in his blood, indicating that he possessed magical abilities. The owner of the joinery, upon witnessing this, immediately reported Shin to the local association. Within 10 minutes, a militia of anti-magic users arrived at the joinery, consisting of just 3 people, to apprehend Shin. Shin found himself in a predicament when the shop owner reported him. In response, he confronted the owner, even as his father attempted to intervene, urging Shin to escape. Realizing he had become a fugitive pursued by the anti-magic user militia, Shin took down his own wanted poster. That night, he decided to return home, deeply concerned about his father's safety. Upon reaching home, Shin was met with a devastating sight. The same anti-magic user militia chasing him had killed his father and lay in wait to do the same to him. Fueled by anger over his father's murder, Shin fought back, armed only with his trusty hammer. With unwavering determination to avenge his father, he took on his attackers. Despite being outnumbered and armed only with his hammer, Shin managed to defeat them. However, his actions marked him as the most wanted fugitive in the eyes of the local association. They mobilized more members to apprehend him, but Shin continued to eliminate anyone who crossed his path. Eventually, one night, while Vox and Kasakabe were on hospital duty, they stumbled upon Shin in the operating room. They also discovered that Shin had gone to extreme lengths by cutting off his fingers and both arms in search of the smoke pipes. Seeing this, Kasakabe quickly realized that Shin was a magician with limited magical ability. Instead of reporting him to the local association, Kasakabe offered to help Shin find his missing smoke pipes. While Kasakabe was searching for the smoke pipes, Vox administered antibiotics to Shin and advised him to stop taking lives. However, Shin remained resolute in his determination to seek revenge against those responsible for his parents' death. In due time, Kasakabe successfully located the smoke pipes, allowing Shin to regain the use of both his hands. Grateful for their help, Shin expressed his thanks to Vox and Kasakabe. Curious about Shin's magical abilities, Kasakabe expressed interest, and Shin hinted that they would soon learn more about it. Before leaving, Shin playfully swiped a box of gyoza from a young blonde girl, who turned out to be Nikaido. A few hours after Shin left the hospital, Vox and Kasakabe were shocked by the arrival of 46 members of the anti-magic user militia who had been gravely mutilated but were still miraculously alive. Kasakabe quickly deduced that these individuals had fallen victim to Shin's magical actions. This incident led to the official dissolution of the local association, and the residents of the hole abandoned their opposition to witches, fearing a similar fate to the 46 survivors. In the present, Nikaido continued to ponder Asu's advice, encouraging her to use her magical power to uncover Kamen's origins. As she glanced toward the window, she was suddenly startled by the sight of someone outside, seemingly fixated on her. At the same time, Kamen and the gang arrived to bring some food for Nikaido. Nikaido quickly informed them about the person outside the window. However, Kamen brushed it off, urging Nikaido to focus on her recovery instead of worrying about such things. Kamen then served Nikaido some gyoza he had made, but it turned out he had overcooked it, and Nikaido wasn't thrilled with the taste or texture. She ended up vomiting the food, so Kamen ordered pizza for her and told her to rest. Once they left Nikaido's room, Kasukabe showed Kamen a card he had found in Nikaido's pocket. Kasukabe believed it was the type of pass high-level sorcerers obtained from the devil. Kamen wondered why Nikaido had such a card, but Kasukabe revealed that Nikaido was a witch, as he had operated on her and seen the distinct anatomy of a witch's body. Shortly after, Kamen heard Nikaido scream amid the heavy rain outside. He rushed to her room and discovered that she had been kidnapped by someone who entered through the window. Kamen chased after the kidnapper, who was carrying Nikaido toward the alley where he had first met her. However, when he reached the alley, there was no one in sight. Kamen noticed an open drain hole and realized the kidnapper had taken Nikaido into it. He descended into the underground sewer, but wondered why Nikaido hadn't tried to fight back. He also remembered Kasukabe's mention of witches hating the rain in the hole. Lost in thought, he didn't notice a creature deliberately tripping him and causing him to fall. It turned out to be Johnson. A cockroach mutated into a giant by the polluted magical smoke in the sewer. Kamen attempted to fight the giant creature but ended up falling into a sewer filled with victims of failed magical experiments. Johnson bit into Kamen's arm and head, but he soon lost interest and went to a corner to feast on Kamen's flesh. Kamen seized this opportunity to escape and continue his search. Meanwhile, Johnson's owner, Andrew, felt disappointed to learn that Nikaido didn't possess the black gems like other victims of witchcraft. Shortly after, Kamen arrived at the scene and forcefully pushed Andrew against the wall. Simultaneously, Johnson emerged in response to Andrew's call and effortlessly knocked Kamen to the ground. Kamen inquired about Andrew's motives for kidnapping Nikaido, and Andrew confessed that he only wanted her black gems. Andrew believed that collecting these black gems from victims of witchcraft practices would make him a wizard. He had been kidnapping such victims from hospitals and then killing them to obtain these supposed magical gems. Kamen enlightened Andrew, explaining that the black gems were nothing more than bodily waste and couldn't turn him into a witch. However, since Nikaido lacked these black gems, Andrew planned to kill Kamen and take his. In response, Kamen swiftly grabbed a nearby knife, cut off Andrew's leg, and hurled the severed pieces to distract Johnson. After that, Andrew, who was on the brink of death, confided in Kamen. He shared his startling revelation, claiming that he had witnessed Kamen and Nikaido in the alley. What was even more astonishing was that Andrew asserted Kamen still had a human face back then. Andrew expressed a deep desire to become a wizard so he could escape the hole. Kamen hoped to learn more about his own origins from Andrew, but sadly, Andrew passed away before revealing anything further. A few days later, when Fujita visited Matsumura's grave, he told Ebisu that the grave was merely a symbolic marker. He hadn't been able to bring Matsumura's mutilated body home after Kamen's brutal actions. Fujita couldn't help but recall the painful memory of Kamen killing Matsumura. However, he remembered that in his final moments, Matsumura had been thinking about Fujita and had used all of his remaining magic power to save him. Shortly thereafter, one of En's men appeared and urgently summoned Ebisu to En's residence. En informed Ebisu about the recent murder of the smoke shop owner. En had acquired the shop and discovered that Ebisu had been a frequent supplier of magic smoke there. En intended to investigate this magic smoke to learn more about Ebisu's lizard-related magic powers. Turning to Fujita, En mentioned his unsuccessful attempts to find a new partner. Fujita felt disheartened, thinking he could never replace Matsumura as a partner. However, Noi tried to uplift his spirits by reassuring him that there were many ways to find a new partner. Fujita was feeling pretty down about it all and decided to head to the hole, driven by his desire for revenge against Kamen for Matsumura's death. Ebisu, who sympathized with him, chose to accompany Fujita on this journey. When they reached the hole, Fujita had a plan. He told Ebisu to remove her mask and blend in as a regular human so they could mix with the hole's residents and figure out how to approach Kamen. While in the hole, Fujita stumbled upon a poster recruiting members for the Peace Sharks baseball team who were going to play against Kamen's team. This gave Fujita an idea. He and Ebisu decided to visit the Peace Hole Hospital to sign up for the baseball team. Surprisingly, the hospital director, Ogata, accepted Fujita as a team member, even though Fujita's baseball skills weren't exactly top-notch. Ebisu, on the other hand, became the mascot of the Peace Sharks due to her adorable demeanor. Meanwhile, at the Hungry Bug, Kamen was enjoying Nikaido's delicious gyoza when a young man named 13, a regular customer, dropped by and ordered some gyoza too. 13 seemed quite taken with Nikaido, showering her with compliments. Kamen, however, wasn't too thrilled about 13's advances. Shortly after, Vox arrived and was irritated because their baseball team was still short of one member for the upcoming game. Kamen commented that they didn't need a full team because he and Nikaido could handle it, but Vox disagreed. He explained that if their team wasn't complete, they'd be disqualified. 13 then volunteered to join their team, and Vox accepted him. Later, when they gathered at the hospital for a team meeting, Kamen was taken aback to see Johnson there. Kasukabe informed him that Johnson was also part of the team. Kasukabe revealed that he could control Johnson using special insect electromagnetic waves, allowing Johnson to follow commands and even speak a few words. As Vought explained each team member's role in the baseball game, 13 eagerly expressed his anticipation for Nikaido's lunch. Kamen muttered that 13 wouldn't get any because he intended to devour all of Nikaido's provisions. Meanwhile, over at En's residence, En tasked Shin and Noi with tracking down Risu, who had escaped with a transmitter in his magic power mechanical body. While discussing Ebisu's magic smoke, one of En's men stumbled over a cable, inadvertently splashing Noi with the magic smoke. En inquired about Ebisu's magic powers, but it was too late as Noi had already transformed into a lizard monster. The following day, Fujita and the Peace Sharks team arrived at the location for their match against Kamen's Central Worms team. The captains of the two teams met, displaying clear dislike for each other due to their previous conflicts. The game began with Fujita as the pitcher and the living doll, who Fujita had named Frankenstein, as the Central Worms' first batter. Fujita was taken aback when he realized that Frankenstein had Matsumura's face. Kasukabe explained that Frankenstein was indeed created from parts of Matsumura's body, and shockingly, using corpse dolls as team members was within the game's rules. Upon hearing this, Fujita became furious that they had manipulated Matsumura's body, his best friend. However, he came up with the idea of taking Matsumura's body home and enlisting Kikurage's help to revive him. Matsumura nailed the ball perfectly but ended up in a bottomless mud puddle. Fujita and his teammates rushed to rescue him before he could drown. Kasukabe followed as the second batter and executed a successful bunt. Meanwhile, 13 inquired about Kamen's relationship with Nikaido, to which Kamen clarified they were just friends. 13 expressed his intention to win Nikaido's affection, to which Kamen brushed it off though he seemed displeased. 13 stepped up as the third batter for the Central Worms and hit the ball well. Next up was Kamen, much to Fujita's annoyance as he faced the person who had killed Matsumura. Fujita gave it his all in his pitch, but Kamen managed to hit a home run, scoring 3 points. Fujita felt defeated, thinking he couldn't even beat Kamen in a baseball match. Seeing Fujita's despair, Ebisu approached him and encouraged him to use his magic power. With Ebisu's support, Fujita regained his confidence. Despite his limited magic, Fujita astonishingly threw the ball at a speed of 160 kilometers per hour, leaving Vox and the others frozen until they struck out. Fujita's impressive performance closed the gap, but Ebisu secretly offered drugged drinks to the Central Worms team members who hadn't batted yet. The drink was laced with anesthetic, causing them to fall asleep. However, despite this setback, the Central Worms still maintained their lead as 3 Peace Sharks team batters struck out in a row. During a break, Fujita told Ebisu to prepare because they were planning to take Matsumura back to their world. Kasukabe was busy recharging Frankenstein, whose power was running low. Meanwhile, Ogata grew frustrated as his team lagged far behind Vox, leading him to instruct Ebisu to poison Johnson with pesticide. However, Kasukabe thwarted this scheme, catching Ebisu in the act of mixing pesticide into ramen noodles. Nikaido stepped up to bat, and Fujita, in a rather nasty move, tried to hit her with a beanball, aiming to injure her. 13 became concerned, fearing Nikaido might really get hurt. Kamen, however, remained calm because he knew Nikaido well, while 13 didn't know much about her. Surprisingly, Nikaido, facing Fujita's second pitch, hit the ball so hard that it knocked Ogata unconscious. While others rushed to Ogata's aid, Fujita seized the chance to take Matsumura and opened the door back to the sorcerer's world. He called Ebisu, who was being pursued by Johnson, and they managed to escape just in time before Johnson could catch them. Back at En's place, they were puzzled to find no guards around, but then an injured guard stumbled toward them and collapsed. Fujita feared the guard might be dead, and at the same time, Ebisu experienced a severe headache due to swollen blood vessels in her brain. Noi, transformed into a lizard monster, also suffered the same agony. Shin appeared, attempting to persuade Noi to surrender. En warned Shin that Ebisu had used black powder, causing Noi to lose control after being exposed to her magic smoke. Struggling to regain control, Noi warned Shin to leave, unable to control herself. As Noi launched an attack on Shin, he managed to counter it and corner her. Shin believed he had paralyzed Noi, but she surprised him with a final attack that fatally injured him. After incapacitating Noi, En and Shin took her to a magician named Chota using a secret elevator known only to En. En explained that Chota had the power to nullify other magic spells. Chota, locked away for a long time, was ecstatic to see En. Following En's account of Noi's situation, Shota wasted no time and initiated the magic cancellation ritual. He blended various ingredients from the demon world and the stomach contents of the person Noi loved the most. Eager to complete the ritual swiftly and heal Noi, En instructed Shin to provide the contents of his stomach since it had already been exposed due to Noi's attack. Shota combined these ingredients to create a magic doll, which he placed along with his magic smoke into Noi's mouth. Additionally, Shota directed Shin to place his hand on Noi's chest while thinking about his most cherished memories with Noi. In a relatively short time, Shota successfully canceled the magic and Noi returned to her true form. Noi regained consciousness and Shin felt awkward realizing he was still touching her chest, even though she had transformed back into a woman. Noi was deeply concerned about Shin's severe injuries and intended to kill him immediately, disregarding her own shirtless state. Meanwhile, Fujita attempted to assist the still suffering Ebisu. However, Matsumura lost control due to his depleted energy, trapping Fujita and attempting to harm Ebisu. In response, Ebisu spontaneously tapped into her magic power, transforming into a lizard monster. With this newfound power, she easily defeated Matsumura, regaining her lost memories about Kanon in the process. Upon reverting to her human form, Ebisu informed Fujita about the man residing in Kanon's mouth. Curious, Fujita inquired about what the man had said to her. Instead, Ebisu handed Fujita the last remaining piece of meat from Matsumura. Fujita hurriedly carried the piece of meat to Kikurage, but En explained that reviving Matsumura with just that piece was impossible. En then inquired about Ebisu's returned memories. Ebisu shared her encounter with the man inside Kanon's mouth. In the whole, Kanon pondered Risu and the potential for regaining his lost memories if he stayed in the sorcerer's world. Initially planning to return, he changed his mind when he saw the wound on Nikaido's back, deciding to go alone to avoid putting her in danger. Nikaido later visited the hospital for a checkup, receiving medications from Vox. She inquired about Kanon and brought him gyoza, but learned that he had resigned from his assistant role. Upon hearing this, she sought out Kasukabe for information, discovering that Kanon had ventured into the sorcerer's world to restore his original face and memories. Kanon finally arrived in the sorcerer's world, determined to find clues about Risu and the Cross Eyes gang. After asking around, he learned that the gang frequented Kesbiel Park, with people assuming he wanted to buy black powder. Kanon also heard about the upcoming Blue Night Festival, where he might encounter Cross Eyes members. While feeling hungry and broke, Kanon witnessed thugs harassing a man named Fukuyama. Their boss, Tamba, intervened but faced threats from the thugs. Kanon stepped in to rescue Fukuyama, and in gratitude, Tamba treated him to meat pies and red wine at his restaurant. Kanon was curious about the attackers who went after Fukuyama. Tamba explained they were collectors who kidnapped potential magicians for the Blue Night. Surprisingly, Tamba removed Kanon's mask, revealing his lizard head. However, Fukuyama clarified that many magicians use weaker individuals for practice since they couldn't go to the hole. Kanon seized the opportunity to confirm this and hid his true identity. He mentioned his homelessness and job search, prompting Tamba to offer him work and a place to stay. Tamba and Fukuyama introduced themselves, and Kanon was grateful, promising to work diligently. Risu returned to his apartment, finding it in disarray and his cactus dead, indicating his long absence. He tried to recall his death, suspecting a cross-eyed gangster was responsible. On the fateful day, Risu received an assignment to deliver black powder to the Salmanaza Plain ruins. He asked his partner, Aikawa, to accompany him, but their boss, Tanabe, insisted on Risu going alone. Aikawa warned Risu about the untrustworthy Cross Eyes. Ultimately, Risu reached the ruins but was killed by a comrade with eye tattoos, revealing the truth behind his death. Risu pondered why he was killed but realized his mechanical body was running out of energy. He decided to find Aikawa for help. The next day, Blue Beetles signaled the upcoming Blue Night Festival. One of En's men informed En about their schedule. After breakfast, En and his family gathered to measure costumes for the festival's opening party. Shota asked En about finding a time-controlling magician as a partner, expressing doubts about their existence. En affirmed their existence and his determination to find one. Soon, another of En's men reported a time-controlling wizard at the smoke shop. While En's family prepared for the party, the festival committee registered magicians seeking partnerships. Only a few passed the test and got invitations to the En residence. After tasting the party's food, they oversaw a traditional drama rehearsal, the miracle of the Blue Night, but they grew bored and sleepy. The Blue Night Festival finally began, a once every 4 years event lasting 3 days. Witches without partners sought to make contracts with devils during this time. As witches donned their finest outfits for the Blue Night Festival, Kanon received orders to remain at the restaurant despite Tamba closing it for 3 days. Though he initially complied, Kanon couldn't resist the urge to join the festival. He sneaked in, disguised as a guard after knocking out 2 real guards. Meanwhile, Fukuyama and Tamba waited in line to enter the festival, being ordinary magicians with no extraordinary powers. Wizards who secure invitations to the En residence's opening party had a VIP route and didn't need to wait. A staff member presented En and his family with partnership requests from wizards. En, Shin, and Noi received numerous requests, followed by Kikurage. Ebisu felt annoyed for not receiving any requests, while Fujiga, initially pessimistic, surprisingly got 2. This news worried Shin and Noi, as they saw an old enemy among their potential partners. En officially inaugurated the 3-day Blue Night Festival, stressing that those who wanted to join his family had to be prepared to risk their lives. Meanwhile, Kanon, assigned to help at the En residence, spotted Shin and others on stage but concealed himself. Instead of encountering them, a staff member tasked him with cleaning the restroom. A little later, while Noi was in the restroom, a man who had been targeting her all along launched a surprise attack. Caught off guard, Noi couldn't defend herself and was swiftly defeated by the man. Meanwhile, at the party, Shin had a premonition of something going wrong, sensing that Noi was in trouble. Kanon, busy cleaning festival toilets, didn't notice the commotion. Nikaido, running her restaurant, was happy about the crowd but worried for Kanon, who ventured alone into the sorcerer's world. The Blue Night officially began, and the committee encouraged everyone to find compatible partners. Risu, sneaking into the festival, led Kanon to neglect his duties as he sought after him. But unexpectedly, Kamon's head collided with an iron safe carried by a witch on a flying broomstick. Instead of pursuing Risu, Kanon went after the witch due to her damaging his head spikes. Meanwhile, Shin rushed to search for Noi and discovered the women's restroom had been destroyed. He was then ambushed by Yaku, an old adversary who had set a trap for him. Elsewhere, Fujita asked En about how Shin and Noi became partners. En recounted their past. As a teenager, Shin visited En's ramen shop and tried to dine and dash. Noi, nearby, chased him down and insisted he pay for his meal. Unexpectedly, Shin challenged Noi to a magic duel, with a promise to pay for his meal if she defeated him. Noi declined, explaining that her magic couldn't be used for combat. She noticed Shin's arm was decaying and decided to use her magic to heal him. She told Shin she'd fight using her physical strength, but instead, Shin struck her on the head with his hammer. As he left, Shin vowed to repay Noi's kindness one day. Later on, Shin approached En, seeking a job as a cleaner responsible for eliminating En's enemies. He inquired about Noi, and En informed him that she was in the process of becoming a devil, wearing armor weighing 150 kilograms and training by feeding demon bats in the tallest church building, signifying she was in the final stage of her training. This is the end of part 2.